Another week of NBA football to break down.
NBA football, wow.
Sorry, dude. We're all over the place, man.
And the crazy, and I was literally going to say when we got to me eventually that I want to apologize because it's been a rough start to the morning. So if my voice is a little, that's why.
Shoot, we derailed. We derailed in record time on that one.
Welcome to the Driving Dish NBA podcast, ladies and gentlemen. We got a lot of hoops to talk about.
We got a lot of hoops to talk about, but we also, you and I, like listening to this podcast at the time that you are listening to it with us. You will know that Kevin and I will either be really ecstatic or really sad because both of us have football games happening tonight. And that's why I accidentally slipped up and said football, because before we started, we were talking about Jags, we were talking about Eagles and what's going on. But obviously we're not going to, well, I am going to drop this before the games, but most likely people will be listening on Sunday or Monday. So you'll know where we stand on our happiness level of football side of things. But there is a lot
Eagles lose to the Giants. I am down horrendously, as the kids say, like horrendously.
Multiple L's will be handed out. Hopefully not. Hopefully it's all dubs. But either way, there's a lot of NBA basketball to talk about. There was a Paris game, which is pretty cool. First one in 3 years, if I'm not mistaken. So we're going to warm up with that. We're going to get into some trade deadline stuff, some teams that are probably, or we think should be sellers in the trade deadline market. And then we'll wrap up talking a little bit of Nuggets, a little bit of Grizzlies, because obviously the Grizzlies win streak was just ended, and now the Nuggets win streak is the longest in the NBA. So we'll talk about that and more as we take up an hour here with you through the Driving Dish NBA podcast. So the Paris game, it happened. It's cool. Do you have any other thoughts other than that? Like, I always feel bad when I mean, it was Pistons Bulls, right? Like, meh.
It happened. It was cool though. It's my favorite way to just tell you, like, yeah, all right, that was the thing. No, I mean, yeah,
it's true though. Like, we're not sending. I get it. Like, it's really cool to have those games go on. Like, Killian Hayes was there, but like,
no, the best part is how the NBA framed it. So the NBA framed it going up into the matchup, and it was like the 6-time champion Chicago Bulls are taking on the 3-time champion Detroit Pistons. And I'm like, bro, I get it, but like
both of which are shells of those teams right now.
We need to get Cade over there. That's the worst part. They just, Detroit is who it is at this point. But no, I mean, it was a fun game overall. I mean, Zach LaVine dropped 30. So there's a little bit of star power there over there. And I mean, really, it was the support over there for the game itself. Like, there was a lot of star power over there. And I mean, Adam Silver after the game literally announced a deal with the French president, Emmanuel Macron, talking about how they want to grow the game there and expand the game there. So I think we're going to see more of this. Like we said, it's happened before. This is a 3-year gap. I mean, really, I mean, we know the potential is there worldwide to kind of have games in a lot of different places. And yeah, of course, I think the NBA's got 82 games. The NFL gets games over there, and they have 17 a year. Like, for the NBA, I think it's much easier to sell this. And in theory, like, I don't want to say you can make a whole road trip out of this for some teams, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see like 2 or 3 game sets over there and you just do them in a couple different cities.
Or what if you did, like, and I thought this would be fun. Again, I understand the money side of things follows this. So taking them out of the US and out of those arenas, there is a little bit of that. But what if you like NBA bubbled it? Say you send out 6 teams, and for a week, they interplay each other at the Paris bubble type thing, and then you can have the players do some like, media stuff and have them out in the community a little bit and kind of really grow it. And then they get a sample of a few games. Again, the timing's weird. And from like from a US viewership, you might take a hit depending on how everything lays out. But like, I think that would be a really cool thing for, like the NFL, right? When they send people over to London, it's kind of like a week-long thing. Although the players get there like, a few days beforehand, there's still like media that leads up to it and all this stuff. And there was this for the NBA game. But if you have a whole week of 6 teams interplaying each other and joking around and out in the community and talking and doing media. I think that would be really cool and definitely probably grow the fan base there.
Well, and you heard Adam Silver talk about it too, just in terms of the other Europe element. Like Giannis, for example, is
Right.
as you would imagine, super caping hard to get a game in Greece, and
Right.
mention how much like that would be a life goal for him. And I think, of course, we end up seeing that in Athens sooner than later. There are just multiple places that make sense for the NBA to play games in Europe, right? And I mean, I think what was there was an NBA Africa announcement too, and I'm blanking right now, but I'm pretty sure they're planning to play games in Ghana. I don't remember if it's preseason or if it was regular season officially announced. I'll look that up at some point during the show. But yeah, I mean, between NBA Africa's expansion, between playing games in Europe, between the ability that they have to sell out large crowds if they decide to go over in Asia, whether it's in China, whether it's in Japan. I mean, hell, they could even go down under, and I think you'd get a great crowd in Australia. Like, I mean, this is part of the NBA glow in the game globally. Like, we know they've always had like the international appeal has always been there, and I think that was what was good to see in Paris is that the crowd did, it showed up. It was an event. They really packed the stadium, and the NBA did a good. And again, like we said, that's Chicago and Detroit. I mean, aesthetically, it's not exactly the best basketball matchup this year. It's not like you sent over, I don't know, the Nuggets and the Celtics. I guess two of the better
Right.
teams this year.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I certainly expect that we see a lot more of this. I mean, I'm curious to see specifically with France, just because of him meeting with the French president and them announcing this deal. Like, I'm curious to see how much it grows specifically there compared to other areas. But yeah, I think we're only going to see more of this. And I think with 82 games in a season, I mean, even if you want to make the argument that each team only has 41 home games, which is true, it's not really difficult to sell to the fans that a couple of the games are going to be overseas. Like, you got plenty of other times to see your team.
By the way, to the Africa stuff, the NBA and the LNB, which is France's top professional basketball league,
Mhm.
which is where Victor Wembanyama is. They're going to share practices across team and league business operations, and then they said that the NBA and the LNB will also explore exhibition games and events featuring both leagues and Basketball Africa League (BAL) teams and players. France and the NBA plan to further invest in basketball infrastructure in Africa, including multi-purpose facilities that can host those kind of games that will drive growth, economic growth, and communities across the continent. So that's pretty cool. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm all about it. I think that's really fun, and I think a lot of the players like doing those kind of community things. So I think this speaks for everybody that they'd be kind of on board and in on it.
Well, and you talk about Wembanyama, like how much of a success it was
Right.
when he played the G League Ignite earlier, and how much of a showcase that was. I mean, he was at the game itself. There's the picture of him and Magic Johnson, just dwarfs him. It's crazy. Magic's 6'9", and Wembanyama's got like a full on him.
That's
Um,
wild.
but yeah, no, I mean, obviously super excited to see.
And
I mean, it's approaching. It's soon.
and by the way, just to put it out there, Adam Silver, while talking about all this, he also talked about LeBron James passing Kareem as the all-time leading points champ. I thought it was interesting the way he worded it. He said the way he reported it or said it to reporters was like, don't whiff when LeBron passes Kareem as the NBA all-time leading points champion. I guess he's saying like, don't underplay it is the way I took it, which
Yeah,
I get what he meant, but I was like, what do you mean? Like, do you think there's any chance the media whiffs on reporting LeBron James is now the all-time leading point champ? Like, I don't think anybody's going to whiff on that. Like, we already have a countdown. Like, it's supposed to happen at the beginning of February or first half of February. Like, there's 0% chance it is underplayed in any way.
see, I disagree. I think it
You think?
weirdly is being underplayed, and it's strange because it is such a like. It's not getting really, I don't think, counted enough towards LeBron's legacy, especially because what's our knock against LeBron if the LeBron fans have one is that he's been known as a passer. Like, he's not an offensive first guy. He's
Sure,
never the guy
sure.
who would go and get a bucket, yet here he is about to be the all-time NBA scoring leader. I mean, the longevity should be appreciated. I think the reason, if there's one this year, that it may not get the accolades that it would have otherwise is just because the Lakers are kind of bad. Like they're fine. They're not the worst team in the league, but yeah, I don't think anybody remotely thinks the Lakers are a threat to win the title or contend or do anything crazy this year. And so I think to that extent, maybe there's a little bit taken out of it. It's like LeBron's going off on this team that just isn't very good.
Sure.
But the other part should be if you're just marveling at like LeBron James is 38 years old. He's still dominating every night. Like he's not playing like he's borderline playing at an MVP level right now. Like what
You
are we
see
talking about?
you see him and Ja jarring a little bit. He was I forget which other Grizzlies player, but he's like, if you start scoring, then you can start talking to and Ja Morant's like, yo, Bron, chill,
I
chill,
think it was
man.
I
Chill.
think it was Desmond Bane is what started it, but
Oh,
they're
okay.
all like, I mean, we're gonna talk about the Grizzlies later, but like, yeah, the Grizzlies are without a doubt the Grizzlies are beloved by a lot of people, but the Grizzlies are really good at making enemies to out of everybody. And in some way, I respect the consistency. Like they always are bringing it. And I mean, again, we'll save it. We got a lot more Grizzlies talk later on the episode. I think, but it is though, like it is such a yeah, to break the NBA scoring record, like I have no idea if this record ever gets broken again in our lifetime. Like I do feel
Yeah,
like there should be like we're so used to having LeBron around that it is just kind of we just take it for granted almost at this point. But like I get what Adam Silver's trying to say. Like this is one of the hardest records in the NBA to
sure.
break. And I mean, like, look at who he's taking it from Kareem, one of the all times himself. Like, I mean, you know, my opinion, I don't think there's any way Kareem's lower than top 3 on the list all time. So, yeah, I can understand where it's like, yeah, make it the event that it should be. Like, this is not LeBron breaks records all the time. This one is different. Like, this
Yeah,
really is one of the, I mean, if you're going to make the argument for him as the greatest player of all time, like, that's pretty close to the top of the achievement list when you make that argument.
for sure. For sure. I agree. I was just kind of surprised. I think when he does it, it's going to be such a spectacle on ESPN and sports shows everywhere. I was like, there's 0% chance in my mind that it's a whiff. Maybe people don't grasp the achievement right off the rip for what it is because we're so used to seeing LeBron James be LeBron James that we won't fully understand it until he's out of the league maybe, but I was like there's 0% chance when it happens it's not all over everything. There's not, for the radio side of things, there's not push notifications being sent out and pictures after the game, and they're not going to stop the game the second he doesn't, and all the players are going to congratulate him on the court. Like that's exactly what's going to happen. So I don't know. That was the only thing that kind of surprised me that he said.
Yeah, I get what you're saying a little bit there, but you know, you got to respect Adam Silver's a good businessman too. He's trying to set the table for it, so of course he wants the eyes on them. Like, yeah,
Of
I would
course.
got to put all the eyes on that game. You know, just good for the league. Welcome everybody to the Drive and Dish NBA podcast. My name is Kevin Rayfuse. Joining me as always, my co-host Justin Kuzart.
That cardigan smooth though.
So I know this is about Shannon Sharpe, so I'll get back to that sec. I completely had one of my own that I forgot to mention to you that I wanted to bring up. So
Oh,
I'm gonna pull that here. Hang on for a second. But in the meantime, I'm gonna guess because they weren't playing in the game, so it's nobody from Memphis or the Lakers, because this is clearly about Shannon Sharpe last night. I let's see. How about Kuzma? Is it Kuzma?
no, it is Iggy, although I think JJ Redick also said something similar.
He
Like he
did. He
said
says
it
something about the cardigan. Yeah, literally, the cardigans get a lot of love. It's like $3,000. We looked it up online.
Wow, is it really?
Oh yeah, it's like $3,000. Shannon Sharpe is in great shape too. Like that's the thing. Still, is like that man is with like he's
Yeah,
one of the
but
best football
but
players of all time. He's like that dude's in his 60s, and he
he
looks like he's ready to go suit up tomorrow.
and Shannon Sharpe was out there talking about nobody wanted that smoke, nobody wanted that. I think Steven Adams wanted that. Like Steven
So
Adams legitimately looked ready, and so many people were trying to push him back, and he did not move. Like nobody was moving Steven Adams.
So Steven Adams is the one player there. When I say I don't think a lot of people would want to fight Shannon Sharpe, it wouldn't go that well. Steven Adams is probably the only exception where I'm like, no, it might go well. He might
Yeah,
win.
like none of those other
Um,
guys really do actually want to get into that altercation. Now, I have feelings about the altercation in general, but I'll let you get your tweet off first.
Oh, no, no, no. I'll come back to the tweet because the tweet can be it'll be kind of funny afterwards. No, my thoughts on the altercation is that it's a really weird borderline because Shannon Sharpe works in the media when he hosts that show
Right.
with Skip Bayless. And so I don't want my media members first row jawing somebody with the
You right.
Grizzlies, like getting back and forth, because there's no one doubting that Shannon Sharpe started this. Like, he was trash
Right.
talking Dylan Brooks and said you can't guard LeBron, and then Dylan Brooks, of course, is Dylan Brooks, and so he's going to respond. And like, look,
Yep.
we know the Grizzlies get up for this and they live for this and they love to talk smack back. They're not afraid of everybody. That's why so many people find them endearing. Like, but they also bring it out of people sometimes. Like, I mean, look what it does with the Warriors. Klay Thompson literally doesn't getting him mad at a fly. He plays the Grizzlies and he's like doing every
Mad.
mode of trash talk you could do out there.
Yeah. Well,
I
and
know.
that's the part that okay. So
Like,
like
if
you
Zach
said,
Lowe came out and was jawing Dylan Brooks on the sideline, everyone would have a problem with it. And so that's kind of my point, is it's like,
yes,
yo, Shannon, I know it's different because these guys love you and you are a former professional athlete, a Hall of Fame caliber former professional athlete. Like, there is a mutual level of respect there. I understand that. But I don't think, if you're like, it's weird to play the media game. And I know, again, it's an opinion-based show as well. There should be something to be said about that. Like, Shannon Sharpe's a
right.
known LeBron fan. He really goes
Which
hard for the
which
Lakers.
by the way, I hadn't noticed this until recently, like because I've been putting on Get Up a lot in the mornings recently. I've noticed even when they do predictions, and it's more NFL, whoever like the reporter is covering that game, like isn't allowed to make predictions because they're supposed to be,
Right.
they're not supposed to be biased. So I totally get that side of it. But again, like you say, like if you and I if I go to a Jags game, right, and I'm in the media press box, there's a certain level that you have to conduct yourself at,
I will
or
say,
you will get your media privileges taken away.
you're right. I'll also say that Shannon Sharpe was not sitting in the press box. If it was sitting in the
Right.
press box, then I think it would be
It's
100%
different.
inappropriate with no bottom line. I also don't think he'd be able to do this from the press box. Like, that would
Right.
really be something if you're chirping
But
from up there.
and then to that though, like again, he's like I'd imagine he didn't pay for those tickets. If he did, okay, but I would imagine he's there through a media outlet, right? So then you reflect that media outlet. And again, I know he's such a personality that he's going to do that regardless of where he goes. Like you kind of have to understand once you get to a level, you're like that.
It's
But
a
like,
weird balance if you're on sports talk. Like, I get that
right,
you should have an opinion and that's a thing. And I get that he's in a different type of role. I don't expect Shannon Sharpe to be an objective journalist, but
right,
I also don't think if you host a sports talk show that you should actively be getting in a situation
right.
where you're getting into fights with borderline the players on the court side. Like, I just think that's just like, you're right. Cause other report, like, I'm trying to think of maybe a better example. Like, maybe if that was Perk, for example, or if that was
Well,
Richard
but okay,
Jefferson,
but hold
or
on. But that's my thing is his Perkins is a great example of this, right? Because I thoroughly thought Perk was going to go in on Shannon Sharpe and be like, that's messed up, that's wrong, all this stuff. Perk's tweet, I saw it this morning. I can't quote it because I don't have it fully up, but it was something along the lines of like, nobody wanted that smoke with Shannon Sharpe. And I'm like, no, dude, like if that was anybody else, if that was a fan, they'd be banned for life. You would not be
yeah.
coming back in that game. He went into the tunnel at halftime, tweeted a few of the or texted a few of the ESPN affiliates so that they could then quote tweet him and put it out there. And then he was back at his seat because I saw it at the end of the game. I think it was Dylan Brooks with a shot. Shannon Sharpe is standing there yelling that his foot was out of bounds again at the ref. Like, no, that doesn't happen for anybody else. You don't
Yeah.
get back in that game, and you're not back for a really long time if that's anybody else.
Be a fan and just don't
Right,
it goes down to the conduct thing. It's just like, you can be a fan and you can talk
right,
trash, but it's just like, it shouldn't become an active distraction. And when it does, you shouldn't just be able to use I'm a former professional athlete just because I'm
right.
respected, that I
Just
don't know.
get
I thought it
away
was
with it.
I think it's a bad look for Shannon Sharpe. Like, and I
Yeah.
do. I like Shannon Sharpe a lot. Like, I
Which
really
that
think,
show is going through some bad looks
well,
regardless. Like
that
that,
show's going
yeah,
through bad looks because Skip is out of his mind, and just
right.
with two multiple tweets. I mean, Skip also just like, I can't believe Shannon Sharpe. Like, if you talk to me, and we would never do this, and vice versa. If I talk to you the way that he did that one day when they were talking about Tom Brady and his own accomplishments, like, we would have to have a conversation off the air where it'd be like, hey, what's up? Like, what's going on here? I mean, it was really like, he was really demeaning Shannon Sharpe to big up Tom Brady. Like, that's kind of weird when you're co-hosts together.
Yeah.
My tweet is, and I quote, so I'll let you guess this: if you gonna quit anything this year, quit hating.
It's an NBA player, right?
Yeah, of
Oh,
course.
okay. Just making sure. Just
Oh
making
no,
sure.
no, I'm not just gonna go on Twitter and pick a random tweet.
Like,
That's
who is
psycho
it?
behavior.
Oh boy. I feel like that could be anybody.
Oh, it can't be anybody.
Is
So
it an obvious person though?
no,
Oh,
no.
okay. East Coast or West Coast?
East Coast.
Okay, so I'm leaning Kevin Durant.
Okay.
I'll go Kevin Durant.
It's not Kevin Durant, it's Paul Reed. I just really like that motto. I just really
0% chance I was
no,
getting
it
that.
just really made me laugh the other day. It's a great New Year's resolution for everybody who's looking for one. If you're definitely gonna quit anything, quit hating.
For
Uh,
sure.
Leave us a review on iTunes, good or bad. I'll read them on the podcast. We prefer if you weren't hating on there.
Yeah.
If you're not an Apple user, Google Play Store, Spreaker, Spotify, TuneIn, Amazon Music, Stitcher, anywhere you find a podcast, you can find us.
And obviously follow us on YouTube. You can find us Drive and Dish NBA podcast. Give us a subscription. That way you know when we are dropping another episode, video versions there. We'll also have links to the podcast episodes as well.
And now a word from our sponsors.
So let's talk about NBA sellers at the NBA deadline as it approaches for us. I feel like a good amount of teams could be pegged as sellers. So let's go through a few of them. I guess let's start with the Spurs. I think the obvious thing with the Spurs is that in the standings, they're towards the bottom.
Yeah.
And there is probably some debate that they are going for Victor Wembanyama. So
is there a debate?
well, they're not in last. They have 14 wins.
They have fans going to the arena with custom-made Wembanyama jerseys already.
Yeah, but they've got 14 wins compared to like Rockets, Pistons, Hornets have 12 and 10 respectively. So like, they're still not last, but that trading away some people could help with that. So,
no, 15,000%. I mean, the obvious move with the Spurs that's going to watch is Pirtle. Pirtle is the one that is going to now he's going to fetch a high price. Like I think he's going to get a first rounder for whoever pries him. Boston would be borderline invincible. I think if they pry him, I think every contender should be like at least taking a look at him for sure. But I think he's one of the guys that's going to control the deadline. When you look at the players, because I don't think there's like last year at the deadline, for example, we saw James Harden get moved. I don't think there's anything remotely on that caliber. And again, it's the NBA. I don't want to say never, but I don't think there's anything remotely that caliber that's going to happen. But I do think there's a couple teams here that can
I guess it's not that caliber, but maybe like if a Westbrook moves somehow, would that be that level caliber?
In terms of recognition, sure, but like
Yeah.
no, I don't think in terms of actual ability at this point it would be in
Okay.
that caliber. I mean, the only thing that could get close is, and we'll talk Raptors in a second, but like if the Raptors were to move Pascal Siakam, I think that would be a massive deal.
Sure.
I struggle to see them moving Siakam, nor do I think they should. Like he's by far their best player, still playing at an all NBA level. Like I think them retooling is the right direction, and because this isn't working as it's currently constructed, but Siakam is like you really got to bring the King's ransom if you're going to pry Pascal Siakam for me.
Well, what I think is interesting, and we'll get to the Raptors because they're on our list here, but yeah, I think a lot of these guys are gonna surprisingly have a high price tag, right? Like Pirtle, for what he is and what he's going to need, like I see him tied to the Celtics, right? And it's because they need somebody else that can be down there to potentially bang around with Joel Embiid and Giannis, and in a way just get in the way also, And so it's also worth pointing out that the Spurs haven't really made many trade deadlines trades. They did with Derek White and Thad Young, but before that, they hadn't done anything until all the way back in 2005. So, like,
wow, really?
Yeah, CBS put that stat out. Yeah, they said that last season's Derek White and Thad Young deals was their last trade deadline trade of note was 2005.
Wow.
So, they're not a team. They're not a team. If that stat is correct, they're not a team that makes a move that often. So you got to really entice the Spurs here, and so I wonder what that price tag is.
I think somebody will. Is the point?
I think
is
you
like
have to, yeah.
Because I don't think there's no incentive for the Spurs to keep Pirtle. Like Pirtle's in his prime right now. He's not really going to get more than like he's not going to get more for you in terms of return wise than I think he will right now. And by the time realistically your team is good and competing, like he's not going to be out of his prime, but he's certainly going to be going in the wrong direction. I mean, I believe he's 28 years old right now. Um, so yeah, I would think Boston, you're right. I mean, if your big rotation is Pirtle and Al Horford and Rob Williams, I think you're really good going into the playoffs. More importantly, towards the end of the stretch of the regular season, it allows you to rest Al Horford, make sure his legs are fresh, and keep Rob Williams. Obviously, the biggest thing is you're trying to maintain his health. So I think if you're able to take some minutes off his plate as well, I think that does a lot for the Celtics just long term. They're in the driver's seat right now. For one, they got a 4.5 game lead on Milwaukee and Philly as of recording this. They won 8 in a row. But yeah, I mean, I think there are a couple of other teams as well. I mean, I would love to see this, selfishly as a homer, I'd love to see the Sixers get in there and get in the mix. And if there were a way to upgrade that Montrezl Harrell spot a little bit, Trez has been playing fine, but I don't think the Sixers have the resources to do it. Keep an eye on the Bucks, maybe. I mean, I know Brook Lopez is playing a ton of minutes there. The Bucks are going to trade Ibaka too. That was their big news this week, is that Ibaka is going to sit out and that they're going to work on finding another
Find a spot for him.
Yeah, find a spot for him. So I mean, everywhere. I mean, out west, like Memphis, I don't think needs another big like that. Obviously with Denver, you just got Jokic playing so many minutes that I don't really, Pirtle would be a great addition there without a doubt. New Orleans has Zion and Valanciunas. I mean, Dallas would be the other one that makes a lot of sense. Dallas needs a big, real bad, especially with Kleba still missing time. I think that would really give them a boost.
I feel like I feel like regardless of who we talk about today from Sellers' standpoint, Dallas is going to be like probably could go after that guy, because literally anybody to help Luka would be great.
But specifically, like their big men are really in the mud right now. Like McGee's playing a bunch of minutes and it's not going great. That's a really big area. I still think Boston, though, is the favorite to land him, without a doubt. And I think they should. I think they should be trying to go in and make a move there.
Well, they should be all in general.
Too is another one. I'd love to see Golden State go out and get another big specifically. Like I think, Wiseman just hasn't been working. Either if they're going to play Kuminga more, that's fine. And you've obviously got Dre there as well, but I think you get a more traditional big there as well. I think I don't know. I feel like he'd thrive in that offense.
Yeah. Well, and again, I feel like that's what the draw for him is, right? Like he's probably a plug and play in most places. And so
he's super tailored to today's NBA.
Right.
Like Jakob Poeltl's a really good player. Like there's a reason he's going to get a first here.
He's got the foot speed. He can leverage his size. He can go up against the other big guys. There's going to be some drive for him. Like that's what you're going to want from him. Although he seems to get posterized by Ja Morant every year. So
so is everybody apparently.
That's fair. That's fair.
I ain't even taking that as a knock anymore. You posterized by Ja Morant. That just means you tried to play defense a little bit.
You got in the way and tried. Yeah.
I forget who tweeted the other day, but somebody tweeted, there's nothing more just like depressing than watch NBA coaches try to talk about playing defense in the modern era, because it's just impossible. Like a lot of the time, like that's what's crazy. And we talked about this a little bit, is where it's like these guys are just so good now that it's not even like NBA teams are bad defensively. Like they're playing great defense. It just doesn't matter.
So damn
sometimes.
Good. Well, did you see this kind of, I don't know why that made me think of it, but Luka the other day got called for a carry. And then he got upset and he hits a 3 and he turns to the ref and he's like joking about the carry. And I was like, oh man, petty Luka, man. That's petty. That's petty.
He's petty. Yeah, it's good. Then thank God good for the ref for not escalating the situation, I should say,
right.
Giving him a toss or something.
So moving on to another team, the Wizards. I feel like Kyle Kuzma has been talking about the trade deadline since the season started. So I would imagine,
yeah, pretty much.
So I'd imagine he's probably on the move at some point. And I think CBS put out an article about it, and they were essentially saying, really any playoff team that needs a wing is probably going to roll the dice on Kuzma. Now he's not like, according to them, significantly better this year than other years, but he has been known for his shooting, even if it's not good, or the numbers don't say it's good right now. Like he's known, and he'll get somebody that's going to make a move on him to try to go with a smaller wing.
Well, defensively too, I think that's the appeal to Kuzma is that you don't lose anything on that end.
Right.
It's really because the Wizards there's been two conflicting. I mean, the obvious report is like what you said. Kuzma is going to be the one that got or is on the way out. Like it's clear that he's not going to be there at the end of the season,
Right.
and so you try to get something now. There's a lot of reports out there that are trying to trade Hakimura, which hasn't worked, to this point. But I blame that more on the Wizards developing than anything. I mean, I just don't think they've developed him properly. It feels like that should be the guy that they're trying to keep. He's still young. He's still got some upside. Like, keep him in Washington. The other report is that they move Hachimura, that they're going to keep, like, that they're potentially going to re-sign Kuzma, essentially. If they want to build around Bradley Beal and Kuzma and Porzingis,
So
that would be a
it.
decision. Like, I don't really know how else to, like, that would truly be a choice to build your core around.
If you had to guess what Kuzma's 3-point percentage is right now, what do you think it is?
34.
You're pretty close, actually. 33%. Yeah. He's never like he's a career 33% 3-point shooter. In my mind, he was better than, but in my mind, he was, and I don't know why. Like, in my mind, I thought I saw him as like, oh, he's that 3-point killer. Like, I don't know if maybe it's a few months he had with Lakers, but like, I still think that
he can hit it. Like, it's that shot. Like, he can for sure hit the shot. He's not just like, guys are going to guard him a little bit and respect it. But yeah, I mean, Kuzma gets a lot done from the inside too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, his skill set, he's the type of player like wings are always at a premium. I guess that's the thing in the NBA too, is that I think a lot of contenders are trying to up their wing depth. Like, I think you look at, look what Andrew Wiggins did for the Warriors in the finals last year. Like, I think a lot of teams see Kuzma and see that type of player. I don't think he's going to get a first or anything like that. But yeah, I think a lot of teams take a flyer on him for sure, or at least pick up the phone.
Yeah, like the Dallas Mavericks.
I really hope that the Wizards don't overpay for everyone's sake in that franchise who cares about them remotely. I pray that they don't just dump the bag into Kuzma and make that, because they've already.
So, to that, which, by the way, I guess we might have pointed this out, but I might have missed it. Is because of Kuzma's salary situation and contract situation, like, if you go get him, you're most likely also giving him a multi-year contract this offseason. If he's not with the Wizards, like you said, the Wizards would do that, but other teams are probably going to have to do that too. So it's go get him, but then you also have to pay him later on down the line. Not just like, unless you really only want him for a little bit and then it's a rental and you move on or you figure it out. But still, I think that comes with the territory of that trade.
I could see somebody taking a rental though. Like, that's the thing, is because if it's not an expiring and you're a contender and you want a rental, you're not giving up anything. The Wizards, you would imagine, are just happy to get value at this point.
If they're not keeping him, yeah.
If they're not keeping him, and I mean, that's the question, is what they do there. I think they should trade him. Like, I don't think, get your value now. Like, I certainly don't think you should be trading young guys. Like, we know that team is going nowhere fast.
Right.
And the other big one to watch in the East is Atlanta, which is with John Collins, who's been, it feels like in the trade rumors, like it's been him and Miles Turner. And ironically, like, it feels like the Pacers are finally going to give Miles Turner a long-term extension, and they're really happy with him and want to keep him locked in Indy. Like, Indy's been, which I don't really know why that's surprising necessarily, because it was just him and Sabonis had the logjam, and like, they both are great players. You just had to wonder, like, if what would happen when it clears up. And now that it finally cleared up, like, it feels like he's just been comfortable this year. Indy's been one of the surprises of the season. I mean, they're in play-in position right now. They're in 9. If Toronto blows up the way they think they're going to, like, you would imagine that they make the play-in game. Obviously Hallie, one of the big stories of the year too. But while Miles Turner, it feels like initially early on it seemed like was a big Lakers target, but it seems like he's going to end up staying in Indy, and we'll go from there. John Collins, though, has not escaped these trade rumors. Certainly a lot
his
of
whole
buzz
career, it feels like, ever since they made the finals run.
Well, and he signed the extension. Like, that's the thing too, is like, you wondered once he locked in, is it's like, okay, after all that, they came to a deal, like it's long term. And that apparently seems to be the hesitation with a lot of teams making a deal potentially here for John Collins, is just taking on the money.
Yeah.
And so I think, like, he could be one of the top return guys, in my opinion, had he not had a big deal. With the big deal, I think it takes a little bit away, but he's probably going to cost a first at least.
You think, I mean, I kind of categorize it as if you were a team that was interested in Kuzma, you might as well be interested in Collins more, right?
A little bit. I mean, they're kind of different. Like
They
Kuzma's
are.
playing more of a 3 where Collins is playing more 4. I don't expect Collins really to stretch the floor even remotely the way I do with Kuz, but
Sure, sure.
yeah, I get what you're saying to an extent for sure.
Like if you're, yeah, if you need a wing, then potentially both these guys could be in play. And to your point, Collins, I feel like has been in every trade rumor ever. Actually, now that we're thinking about it, a very interesting pairing for Kuzma and maybe Collins would be Utah. Pair him with pair him
Like
with
for
Lord, like with Markkanen. You pair maybe more Kuzma because then you both stretching the floor a little bit more. But that could be an interesting play.
yeah, it would be weird. I mean, I'm trying to. I guess it depends where Utah's at. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because just
yeah.
because those guys, I mean, Collins a little bit more than Kuzma. Though honestly, I check the ages on both of them.
Hold on, I got you.
Kuz was older when he came in the league, but it feels like John Collins would be more of the type. Kuzma just doesn't seem
Collins
like
Collins is 25.
okay.
Kuzma is 27.
Okay, so Kuzma, yeah, I don't really know that he would fit their timeline necessarily.
Maybe Collins then. You get a guy
Collins
that's
might a
willing to
little
be
more.
there.
Like I think that would make a bit more sense. And I mean, Utah, Lord knows, has an ample amount of picks to get anything done that they want to
Right,
do.
they can trade for anybody they want.
Okay, I'm just gonna say it. I got it. I gotta get it out. I can't let it go anymore. That Rudy Gobert trade, I think, is the worst trade in NBA history. It's pretty close. It's
Oh,
real. Like the fact that I'm already going, I might take Walker Kessler alone over Rudy, and I know it takes time, and the teammates are preaching that. And Minnesota's played a little better recently. They're probably gonna make the play in, but given what they gave up and now how they essentially have no greater means of improving the team, I don't know, man. Like that is it's already like I would think maybe I'll give it a full year, and I probably will, but I'm pretty I think I'm firing the cannon, dude. It's horrible for Minnesota. Like I can't
okay.
find a good and Kessler's development just only makes it worse to me. Like that just continued to pour salt in the wound. Like that was my one thing is, oh well, all right, they're all picks. Maybe none of them pan out. The first one they got is already panning out.
Yeah, he's getting his minutes, but I like you said, I want to see it for a whole season. Like right now, Timberwolves, like you said, 23 and 24 in the ninth spot. They're
They are
7 and
7-3 in their last
yeah,
10. Like, and
7 and
that's
3 in
kind
their
of
last
where
10. I want to just maybe they're a second half season and they start showing us they figure it out because it's starting to feel like maybe the chemistry is starting to gel a little bit. I just want to see it a little bit longer. It was a lot to give up, so the fact that we are at a point where we're like, I want to see it a little bit longer is concerning from how much they gave up, but I want to see it a little bit longer.
and again, it takes time to learn to play with Gobert. Like a lot of what he does, I mean, he's
Yeah,
a very unique player. You do have to tailor your game around him a little bit. I guess that's my greater point is that it's like, yeah, I'll tailor my game around Joel Embiid. I'll tailor my game around Nikola Jokic. I don't think you need to with Nikola Jokic, but I'm just if I'm using the
yeah,
example as a
yeah,
big
yeah, yeah.
man, like am I going to tailor my game around Rudy Gobert? Like, I don't know. They did a little bit in Utah and they had some clear success with it. Like the team was the
Hmm.
number 1 seed the 1 year. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm just like I'm sitting here and I'm looking at them at 23 and 24. And in a year where it feels like, which again, we'll get into in a little bit, the Western Conference is more wide open than ever. This really could have been a year, I think, if they had just kept on the course. Like I think they had it naturally. It just feels like it reminds me that sometimes you just go in early when you don't have to. I mean,
You
it's
went
it's
for it,
not
yeah.
quite as drastic, but that was part of my beef with the Sixers is that I thought the Sixers pushed in way early, and then once they pushed in, didn't stay pushed in. They tried to do a little of both. Um, Minnesota, I mean, there's no maneuver here for a little bit of both. I just don't want it to get to a situation where you have to trade Towns or God forbid Anthony Edwards. I don't think Edwards would ever be moved.
Well,
Nor should he be, but
and this kind of fits in with that topic is another team that I think probably should consider being sellers is the Chicago Bulls.
yeah.
10th place right now. They're 21 and 24, 5-5 in their last 10. Now, when I started doing that research on them and, is it do you trade Vooch? Do you like who is it that you move type situation? Um the problem here is their ceiling this year, and maybe you agree with me or not, is probably a low in play and exit or getting beat in the first round of the playoffs. But because they have 21 wins, they're probably not getting a top 4 or 5 draft pick.
No.
And that's important because their draft pick this year is top 4 protected. But if it's less than that, the pick goes to the Magic.
Right, through the Vooch trade.
So you almost have to say, yeah, you want to blow it up, but at this point, you might as well wait it out and retool in the offseason because what are you really going to do?
Well, and that's kind of where you're just stuck, unfortunately. And I think the Bulls are one of the most stuck teams in the NBA. I think they're in one of the most unenviable positions. And they have good players. Like DeRozan's playing great. I think LaVine has started to come on more recently. I know he was frustrated with his role in the offense, which I mean, it is heavily mid-range based. LaVine is more of a 3 guy. Vooch is good. He started to decline as soon as he got there, unfortunately. Like, he just is a little bit older now. Again, not a bad player, but when you look at the return that they gave or what they gave up, I mean, you give up the picks and you gave up Wendell Carter Jr., who's obviously played pretty great in Orlando since going down there. But again, I don't really know what you do. Part of it is unfortunate too via injury with Lonzo. It's just one of the sadder stories right now, being unable to just get on the court, continued knee issues. You're right, because I don't think you can fully blow it up. I mean, I don't even know, like, if DeRozan becomes available, I don't know what the market is for him right now. Like, who would be able to scramble that fast? And because he is such a unique player, I mean, the obvious example is the Lakers, but again, do the Lakers have enough, like, to get DeMar DeRozan? I don't think so.
Do the Mavs need him? Because they need somebody.
If the most thing the Bulls could do to set themselves up would be to trade LaVine. It's just like after Zach LaVine signed a big deal and it's had been really great for them at some point, like, it does feel like they'd be selling a little lower. His numbers have ticked down compared to where they could have been. I mean, he was being billed as a near max guy. So a lot more recently than not. But I don't think, it doesn't feel like they're ready to do that. I don't think that they should be rushing to do that. I don't think you give players away, but I don't know what Chicago does. I think Chicago's in a really tough spot. It's not like Toronto, where Toronto's disappointing, but Toronto's, all their guys have value. Like, everyone from OG Anunoby to Gary Trent Jr. to even the vets, a Thad Young, a Chris Boucher, if they decide to get rid of him, like, there are guys there who they'll be able to move to varying degrees of the return back. I mean, again, if they move Siakam, that's a king's ransom. Like, you're going to have to pay a max deal to get the package, essentially, to get Siakam. I did see the report of what the Raptors valued their guys at, and I was laughing because I was like, well, Masai Ujiri is just not even trying to be discreet about the leak. It felt like if they're hoping to get 2 first-rounders for OG Anunoby, I think that's insane.
Well, here's the thing is teams got to know, like, mathematically, Toronto, they're pretty much at the luxury tax with the guys they have.
Yep.
So, like, the league knows they have to do something, right? Especially if they're not playing well.
Well, a lot of them are going to walk, though. That's the thing. Gary Trent Jr. is a free agent. Van Vliet's a free agent. So their books will clean up.
But then at that point, why not, if you're the Raptors, get something for them?
Oh, I agree. That's why I think they should blow it up. I think the team's going nowhere fast. Like, I'm fully, and I think the Raptors, more than anybody, are probably going to determine how this goes. Like, I think there are teams that, for example, we're going to talk about him here in a little bit. Does Memphis go in for OG Anunoby? It's going to cost a lot, but does that push you over the top? It might.
You'd be damn close.
I mean, they're damn close now. Like, you've got a good argument that Memphis could win.
What about our boys, Sacramento?
For OG or just in general?
For OG, get a defensive wing, add them to the roster, young roster, exciting roster. Everybody's on the up.
No, you're not wrong.
Man. I don't think they can afford him. I think, actually, I was looking this up. I think they have they owe Atlanta a pick for Kevin Huerter. So they might not be able to afford it if that's the price. But man, oh man, could you imagine Sacramento where it is now, adding OG, like, that would be fun,
Be a lot of
dude.
fun. Yeah, Sacramento would be a great fit. I mean, Gary Trent Jr. should get a lot. I mean, shoot the basketball. Like, I think every
Right, right,
contender
right,
should be
right.
knocking, and especially on a flyer, I don't think it's going to take a ton.
And, of course,
Same.
Van it doesn't help Van Vliet that he's shooting a career low, three-point percentage this season, so that
No, and they're
kinda
probably going to
lowers.
want a lot. That's the thing. Is it's like, and it is a rental. Like it being an expensive rental. I
Yeah,
don't know who goes out and does it. I think you're probably like, I don't know. It feels like Fred is probably staying. I think
yeah.
Pascal's staying. I think OG is going if anybody's going.
Well,
I
he's the
just
one
think if
that's
they're going
gonna
to
get
hold
you the
out.
most.
Well, if they're going to hold out for 2 first rounders, though, like I think they're going to be massively disappointed. It. I want him to go to Memphis, man. I think I really like that fit a lot. I don't think Memphis is a push all in team. Um,
Would he be a bailout if he ended up going to the Lakers? Would he bail out the Lakers' problems, you think?
No,
A little
no, the
bit?
Lakers have too many to bail out. Like
Yeah,
that's the thing is like what a Lakers bailout does what? It gets them into the play-in game. Like the biggest Lakers
yeah.
bailout that could happen is Anthony Davis staying on the court consistently. Like
Well,
that's
yeah.
where you would have reasons to have a little bit of optimism if he's
And
able
I
to keep
think
going.
Woj put out he's supposed to be coming back again next week, I think, from this previous injury now. It's
I
hard
mean,
to keep
hopefully.
up. It's
Yeah,
hard to
I
keep
mean,
up.
well, and he was playing. I mean, he was playing arguably the best
Oh,
basketball of his
right.
career before he got hurt. So that's the thing is like I do want to see him go be on the floor here sooner than later. It's just you know a
We're
pattern
still
is a pattern. There's no denying it.
agreed.
Um, I mean, other teams to kind of keep an eye on just at the deadline. I mean, is always one. We know what they're up to. I don't think Utah is going to get radical and blow it up, blow it up. But I mean, I think anyone who's a veteran there, Jordan Clarkson specifically, I think will draw a lot of interest. Um, Detroit's the same deal. I think anybody that's a veteran on Detroit is liable to get traded at this point. They're really going in for Wemby too. And I mean, there are 12 wins. I mean, Detroit, Charlotte, and
I think,
anyone that's a vet there. I would see Orlando's interesting because I want to see if they take calls. And I feel like again, another person that we've been talking about for years. They're playing better. I want to see if they take calls on Terrence Ross. If there's any
I feel like,
contenders there
yeah,
who may be interested.
I feel like we thought Ross was gonna move a lot. I wonder, would Ross fit? Like, I feel like the Suns need to do something to kind of jumpstart the offense,
I
or
do
just
too.
the vibes around the team right now. I mean, they're in 10th. They're 2-8 in their last 10. I know there's been injuries and stuff, but like, I wonder if they do something that's a little bit of a splash to kind of like jump, because I don't think they need a big, like, I don't think they need that big star to like get the offense going, but I think they need a little spark, something that just like helps get everybody like, oh yeah, we're the Suns. Let's start winning again.
They got to do something because it seems like they don't like each other and they've been dealing with a lot of injuries and going nowhere fast. And I mean, there
Yeah.
are bigger problems there, namely that Ayton hasn't really stepped up at all when Booker's been out.
Yeah.
When they've needed him too desperately. Mikal Bridges has been good, but hasn't been, maybe more of the offensive player that they hoped he would be again when Booker's been out. So, but yeah, they're at when you talk about the vibes being high for certain teams and how that can help them win games, they're real low with Phoenix right now.
Yeah, it's not great. It's not great for Phoenix at the moment.
But either way, the trade deadline's coming up on February 9th. So we're gonna see a little more jockeying, and we'll start to really take a deeper dive as we start seeing more specific rumors floating around. But at least with those people, like I think Toronto are the big ones to watch. I think Pirtle's a big one to watch. I think that John Collins remains a big one to watch. Anything else. But again, I don't think we're going to see that massive superstar move.
I think the biggest we end up seeing is if the Lakers can do something and Westbrook's involved.
Yeah, I guess name wise, that would be
That's
true
probably
if
the
they're able to
biggest we
trade
would
Westbrook.
see. And if there's something more, then we're all going to be surprised. But at least right now, that's kind of the vibe I'm getting. Is that's going to be the if we see something from the Lakers and Westbrook's involved, that's probably the biggest name wise move that we see.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, who's balling, who's falling? Our NBA version of the stock market. We always like to start with the good before the bad. So balling for me this week is Giannis, because we talked a little bit in warmups last week about the All-Star voting. Giannis is past Kevin Durant in the All-Star voting. He's at 5.9 million now. KD's at 5.8 million. KD's missed some time. It may have hurt him a little bit. But regardless, if this holds, Giannis, of course, would be the co-captain with LeBron, which we've seen before, but instead of LeBron versus KD again.
I'm cool with it. I mean, I guess we kind of talked about how we were surprised he was lower, so I guess the fan vote correcting itself a little bit. Maybe it was that 3-for-1 Thursday where votes counted for 3 instead of 1.
I mean, maybe. Hey, listen, Bucks fans
So
going
dumb.
in.
Listen, it's just okay. My ballin is actually not basketball related. It is my real one is. We'll get to it in a second, but this is the 6th straight season where the AFC champ will be featuring the Jacksonville Jaguars or the Kansas City Chiefs in the game. Shout out to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yo, that is nasty work. I appreciate it, but like that is insane. I can't believe I can't believe it's accurate. Number one,
It is.
It has been.
Yeah.
No, it was in Bortles in 2017. I absolutely lost to the Patriots. I mean, look, man, Dougie P gets it done. I thought they were going to beat the Chargers. I did not think it would happen that way.
Yeah.
One of the craziest comebacks in playoff history. They're gonna need to
celebrating at a Waffle House afterwards is elite, and it's the Waffle House. It's the Waffle House you and I have been to numerous times.
Wait, he went to the beach one?
Yes.
Wait, the one on Beach Boulevard? Like you're talking at Jack's Beach, or you're talking about the other one on Beach?
At Jack's Beach, the chaos was there. It's like why
did Trev go to that on Saturday night?
Again, like if the Shannon Sharpe thing, we thought it was staged. I think this was planned with Waffle House. Like I thought it might have been a thing because like. Brent.
No, Waffle House isn't the promo, bro. They got no commercials. Trevor may have done it for his brand for sure. Because listen,
like
I love Waffle House. You love Waffle House. Yeah. Like we know what it is in Jacksonville.
Guess what?
It's part of the culture. You gotta love it.
The next day, people were like, "What did Trevor order?" I'm going to Waffle House to get into Trevor.
He got a pecan waffle. He's got good taste. That's the best thing at Waffle House, in my opinion. Oh no, yeah, no, Justin, listen, you had it.
Oh.
Wow.
I don't like pecans.
Okay, that's fine then. I'm like, bro, that pecan waffle, like that changed my life. I didn't
know
you see
about
by
that. There's
a Bourdain episode when he went, the dude who he went with would order it, and I was like, whoa, this is a thing. And let me tell you something.
Not for me. The more power move was Trevor Lawrence drinking a coffee at 1 a.m. and then going home and I guess going to sleep. Like what? Either way, my actual ballin' is the Denver Nuggets, who now hold the longest win streak in the league at 9. It was the Grizzlies who were going for 12, but Shannon Sharpe was able to shut it down. And the Lakers.
No love for Dennis Schroeder, huh? We got nothing for Dennis. Makes the defensive play and gets the and-one layup to win the game.
Nope. But the Lakers defeated them at 11. So now the Denver Nuggets hold the longest win streak. It's at 9. So congrats to them.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to get into this in a little bit, so I'm literally going to punt and just go right to Fallen because I want to talk heavily about Denver and Memphis because as the West starts to distance itself out, like, we're here. We're at the halfway point. Like, we need to start look, I know I've been beating the Denver drum all year. I'm pretty convinced Denver might win the finals at this point. Like, I'm there. I'm ready to I'm there, Justin. I'm just saying.
Jokic
I'm putting it out there.
Dude, I'm
everybody
with you.
though. They surrounded the squad. He's got shooters. The wings make sense. Like everybody's healthy.
I bought
the stock ages ago. I'm off.
I just worry about the minutes and does it the season wear down on them? I wonder. But to that, my fallen, we lead right into the NBA top selling jerseys. It was announced. They put out a nice little infographic for us. Steph Curry, number 1, LeBron James, number 2, Giannis, number 3, Luka, number 4, Kevin Durant, 5, Ja Morant, 6, Tatum, 7, Booker, 8, Embiid, 9, Lillard, 10, Trae Young, 11, LaMelo, 12, Anthony Davis, 13, Zion, 14, Kyrie, 15. Guess who's missing? Your boy, Jokic. Not in the top 15? Come on.
I agree. Some of the ones towards the bottom surprised me. I think the top 5 should surprise no one. Like that's the most chalky top 5 ever.
But even that, like I would imagine, like Curry, LeBron, Giannis, Durant, they've been around for a while. So in my mind, like I could see a Morant, a Ja, and maybe a Tatum starting to sneak in there. So that was going
to be my take, is that Ja is a bona fide star. Like, and I think we've known this for a while. But like when you talk about the young faces of the league, you mentioned Zion. Zion's been getting a lot more recently this year. Obviously, Luka, I think, is the guy. Tatum, in terms of winning, is right there. And I think he's right behind him on jersey sales too. But it's like, when you talk to the casuals, the people who maybe don't watch the NBA as much,
it's not
their number one sport. Ja's that guy. Like he's beloved around the league.
Yeah, and I think, I think that's the only surprise I had where, like, you could convince me that maybe, like, maybe I feel like LeBron's kind of in a whole thing, maybe Steph's in his own thing, but maybe, like, Giannis and a Kevin Durant start to slip a little for the younger guys, like a
Oh, you
Luka
think
and a
Giannis
Ja.
does right now?
I don't know.
I
Kevin
don't think
Durant more
Giannis is
than
slipping yet. KD
yeah,
might, but I
Durant
even
more than them, but even so, like a Morant, a Tatum, um, maybe even Zion, who is at 14. Like I'm surprised Anthony Davis is above him, honestly.
that's just the
Um,
Laker fan base. I mean, that
yeah,
that that is as simply as that. Like, that's what it
yeah.
all comes down to for me. The Warriors are the team right now too, but I
What
also
I
think
find
Steph's in his own
funny
stratosphere.
What I also find funny is obviously on that out of that 15, no New York teams, but in the top selling jersey markets, Lakers are one. You go all
Wait,
through.
wait, you
Knicks
got
are top
Brooklyn?
10. Brooklyn's 8. No, no, no. But I'm talking about Knicks. I'm talking
Oh,
about
okay. I
Knicks.
was
Knicks,
just
Knicks,
saying, I'm like,
Knicks.
wait a minute, Brooklyn's not New York anymore?
No, well, yeah, they are, but Knicks is who New York Knicks.
Well, so who would be the I mean, if you're a Knicks fan, because this actually gets into my ball and my fallen, I should say. My fallen is Mitchell Robinson, and it's nothing personal. He's just missing 3 weeks. He's kind of having a thumb procedure.
Sure.
But he's really Mitchell's really turned his season around, kind of started slow. But the Knicks are 8 points per 100 possessions better when he's on the floor as center. Could be a little bit longer. That's been kind of unfortunate. Obviously, defensively is his biggest impact without a doubt, right off rip. Hopefully he gets back here sooner than later before the end of the season. I don't think it's going to be something that totally shuts him down. Yeah, I don't know if I'm buying a Knicks jersey right now. I mean, my initial thought is RJ Barrett just because he's
So
young. He'd be the
RJ
upside guy long term.
RJ last year, according to an article I was just quickly able to pull up, he was in the top 15 players for jersey sale. So I would imagine he's still up there. He's just not in the top 15. Maybe he drops. He's at 16 or 17 or whatever. So maybe that then justifies the Knicks sells being in the top 10. Like, because again, top
It's him or
selling merch.
Randall. Like, I don't know who else you would buy. Like, it's him or
Well, but it could
Randall.
be it could be throwback, right? Like the Bulls are up there, and that's Jordan stuff,
Yeah, if I'm okay, so if I'm doing team merch and I'm buying
right?
throwback, yeah, it's a different story. I mean, for the Knicks, like, yeah, you'll always a Patrick Ewing jersey will
Right,
always work.
right. So that's my point.
Carmelo Anthony Knicks jersey will always work.
And that's my point is the Knicks are still top 10 in the league for merch sales. The Bulls are top 5 in the league for merch sales, and that's driven off their history
Yeah.
and a lot where like I wonder, if we get to a point where in our top selling NBA jerseys, we see a Knicks player get back into the top 15. Maybe it's an RJ Barrett, maybe it's someone else, but get back to a point where they are in the top 15.
If they land anybody that's on the caliber of the bona fide stars in the top 10, they'll be there. Like,
Well,
they will be there
I
easily.
wonder where Jalen Brunson is on this list, to be honest with you.
I can't imagine that high. And I mean, he's somebody that's a good call. That's actually somebody I would maybe invest in if I was a Knicks fan, if I was going jersey route. But like, look, at the end of the day, like Jalen Brunson has broke out a little bit, but it's not like he's that much of a household name, right?
Yeah, he probably pissed off some New York fans too because he wore a Jalen Hurts jersey before the Knicks game the other day.
Oh, that is great.
Uh,
No, shout out to listen, Jalen and Jalen. I appreciate it because Jalen Brunson with a Nova, so like that's not even a
he gets
hard.
it, yeah.
He's not from Philly like that, so like he's just
No, but
the fact that he's repping a little bit, having gone to school in Nova, like shout out Jalen Brunson, come home, baby, let's go.
uh, well, there you go. So that's my fall, and I guess that transitions us to the thoughts about the West. We've kind of already given a few of those, and we'll just kind of run through it quick. But obviously, the two main teams to talk about are the teams that are number one and well, I guess technically in the league, what number 2 and 3. Celtics have a better record than them, but in the West, they're number 1 and 2. The Nuggets, the Grizzlies, who are essentially bouncing back and forth. Nuggets on a 9-game win streak. Grizzlies technically just lost, but they were on an 11-game win streak. Here we are. I think both teams are phenomenal. I think I think I'm with you, and I believe in the Nuggets a little bit more than the Grizzlies, and I don't know if that's because Jokic is just a bigger human being than Ja Morant. It honestly might be.
I mean, so the Grizzlies in that matchup have Jaren Jackson, which obviously will be huge. I think
Of
he's one
course.
of, if not the best defensive player in the league this season. I think he's going to win DPOY, as we
He's up
talked
for
about
it,
a little bit
yeah.
last week. Go back and check out our midseason award predictions if you want to listen to that. I just think we're not giving them enough credit that those two should be the overwhelming favorites. I guess that's my biggest point right now. Is like I look at the Western Conference and
In the
it's just
West, right?
really
In the
wide.
West.
I'm talking for the West. Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
talking
Okay. Oh
the
yeah.
East is a little different. I'm talking for the West. Because it's more wide open than it's really ever been. I mean, the craziest part, I mean, you talk about like after Denver and Memphis, who are we looking at? It legitimately might be Sacramento. It's Sacramento or the Pels, maybe. I mean, the Pels have dealt with a ton of injuries recently. Like when they get Zion and BI back, you imagine they'll be competing right there. I mean, Sacramento, they've won 6 in a row themselves going into this. They've got the
Mm-hmm.
Sixers tonight on a back-to-back, so it'll be interesting to see if that streak keeps going. But like, Dallas we talked about is flawed. The Clippers we talked about being title contenders. They're 24 and 24 at this point.
Yeah.
Like
I
the
don't know.
Warriors are
Yeah.
23 and 23. Now the Warriors look great against Boston. I know they lost, but they looked like they're starting to kick it into gear. That of course is the one team I'm never going to rule out. Like they've done this before. Utah, great story, kind of a limit. Minnesota hasn't really given us any indication they're going to make that run. Phoenix has got to get healthy. It is really the overall point differential, Memphis is beating them or beating Denver, I should say a little bit. Memphis is plus 5.7 right now. Denver's plus 4.5. I'm really high on both these teams. Memphis is a tick better defensively than Denver is. Their offensive ratings or their points per game, I should say, are actually quite literally the same. Denver's been better at home, but not really. They've just played 2 more there. Memphis, it's tough because the argument for Memphis to me, not beyond X's and O's, is that they've been here before, right? That this core has been here. They played meaningful games. Like they've been in the playoffs. They're not new to this. I don't think Denver is though either. Like Jamal Murray played in the bubble. Jokic has played the last 2 years. Like the thing with Denver is it's always been, can they get healthy? All their role guys were in the playoffs last year playing meaningful minutes. Like this is not a young, darling, up and coming team. Both of them are extremely well coached with Mike Malone and Taylor Jenkins. I think we need to start giving them credit. Is like, yeah, that it looks like our Western Conference Finals matchup. Like we've talked about all these other teams. These two are pulling away from the pack.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what I've been, thinking myself. I mean, Denver Nuggets, like you said, the best offensive rated team in the league. The Grizzlies, the best defensive rated team in the league. And in terms of net rating, I think you mentioned this: Memphis above the Nuggets, and the only other team that's in that range of offensive rating, defensive rating, net rating, the only one better is Boston Celtics. And to me, right now, those are the 3 teams: Grizzlies, Nuggets, Boston.
Yeah, Boston is for sure the favorite in the East still to me. I give the Sixers some credit, man. The Sixers are 17 and 3 in their last 10. They played a lot better defensively. Harden's playing great in terms of,
Mm-hmm.
of switching into more of a point guard role. My issue with the Sixers is always going to be like, yo, win a second round series. Like I've seen this in the regular season before. They looked great out on the West Coast. Hopefully that
Sure.
continues. Again, they likewise have Sacramento tonight. It's gonna be a tough test. But they're still kind of in prove-it mode. The Bucks have been slipping a little bit. A lot of injuries there. I think Giannis is banged up right now too, which isn't helping. Brooklyn again slipping a little bit without KD. They're going to get him back. You don't want to really get too hasty there. I think like the teams that are just a tick behind Boston in the East, I think are maybe a little bit better than the ones that are behind Denver and not Milwaukee, Memphis in the West.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think like with Denver and Memphis, I'm picking straws. With Boston, like I do, I think they're the clear favorite right now in the East. Like I think there are teams that can give them a run for sure, but until I see otherwise, and again, Boston going and get Pirtle could only get even better.
I know, and that's what makes me worried is like that in my mind, the Boston Celtics don't need anybody to make him better. So if they go and get somebody that makes him better, it's like, damn it.
Imagine if they got Gallinari. Like that's what's crazy too. Is like they picked up Gallo. Gallo would be great for them. He just unfortunately isn't going to play with the ACL injury. But
Yeah.
listen, Boston's front office has been making moves. I mean,
Oh
last year
yeah.
at the deadline, Derek White was a great pickup for them at the deadline.
Of course. Of course. I agree.
Thank you everybody for listening to this episode of the Driving Dish NBA podcast. Appreciate you guys as always. Leave us a review on iTunes, good or bad. We will read them on the podcast. If you're not an Apple user, we're everywhere you can find a podcast. You know where to go at this point. If you've listened
Yep.
to an hour and 4 of this.
Yeah, you know we're on YouTube. There's a video version there. That is where you can subscribe to find out about more episodes down the line.